Good afternoon, Chamam.
Hey.
What's the appropriate way to greet these days, bro?
I don't know, Molweni.
Dog, that sounds so like...
Yeah, we're taking it back now, dude. What are these new things now?
That sounds so neat and tidy, bro.
And
That's what I'm into.
I'm missing out on everything, dude.
What do you mean, bro?
I'm the type of nigga that niggas are showing TikToks now. And I'm like, look here, I know you haven't seen this. Look here. I'm that nigga now, and I can't believe it. My dad's showing me TikToks that I haven't seen.
No, not the time, bro.
My dad is on TikTok, dude.
That's crazy.
Look for that nigga, blow that nigga up.
Does he like post or?
He does. Delano Maloney on TikTok. My nigga.
Say again. Let's play him up.
Yeah, Delano Maloney. Let's get him going, dude. Let's get this nigga's TikTok going. Just to make some paper. Niggas making paper
on TikTok. And I think
this nigga. There's a lolly TikTok.
A lolly
economy
TikTok. Okay.
That I think he can master.
Pierce through,
He can be he's cutting edge, dude.
And the beautiful thing about TikTok, the creator and the money is like more close, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like not long.
So I don't even know how cash flows in this digital. Like I don't even know how you make money off a podcast. I don't know. Like I don't know. How do you sell advertising? Who do you speak to? Mac G. Get Mac G on the line.
Bro, I think that's the Maverick, right? Because he's the one that's really seems as if like...
We have the weirdest Mavericks.
Yeah. In our sort of niche or...
I think just generally in South Africa. I think South Africa has like strange Mavericks. I saw a story, we were talking about this on the thing with Kylan.
Yes.
Vusi Tembagwai had to go pick up his car from the pawn shop. Now, Vusi Tembagwai, I don't know how true the story is.
Okay.
Like, I had to pick up a Ferrari from a pawn shop or something.
Crazy.
And that to me was like, this is South Africa. This sounds South African to me. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
You know, because he's about self-motivation and get up and do it for yourself. So if he fails, what about the rest of us?
There's something that I want to like, that's interesting about that idea of an individual that is like polished, clean, and perceived as like put together and well presented to masses. I'm interested in the notion of like, are you then allowed to have like rough? Are you allowed to be rough around the edges, or you're gonna continue to be ridiculed when you are a free thinker?
I guess that he's creating the perception of himself. That is that.
No, that idea of an individual, right? I'm not necessarily relating it to him.
No. I'm just saying in any of those things, when someone is presenting as something that they can't uphold for the rest of their lives, of course it's gonna come at the seams. Of course you're gonna spill over eventually. And when we see you spilling over, we're gonna be like, but didn't you say? And so I think the way to mitigate that is not so much, it's not everyone else's fault that when it collapses. I do think we have a kind of cynical humor in South Africa when we're watching things go wrong, or, you know, and I not to diagnose, but I think there's something there that he creates or they create that when they start to it's the same as this like podcasting world or whatever. You know, if I sat down and I made myself this very like, oh man, I know what's going on and this is the right way to go, people eventually find out about other things, about your humanness, right? Like about the sense that it's not all under control, and that you don't live by the things you are saying to people out there. You don't abide by those principles, but those principles are sort of virtues that you signal out, and you hope that it gives you valor, it gives you some sort of standing or esteem amongst the rest of us. But human beings are fucked up. If you haven't noticed, 2024, if you haven't looked at your phone lately, it's downhill from here.
Yo, how would you then like describe like a free thinker?
I don't know if it exists, right? Like it free thinking for me is kind of like it's people who can kind of break out into other neural pathways and be able to access other parts of themselves that are equally as influence as the main parts, but they're not derived from wanting to connect to people through the, you know, this unified thinking or a sense of like, we all believe this. Because I don't think, I don't, there's nothing I need to believe with you. Right? There's things I experience, there's things that happen to me, there's things that are in my body, there's things that I interact with that give me the data that I need to kind of then be able to move, be able to kind of construct a world that I believe in. But I don't think free thought is like the space where you are somehow removed from what the world that's happening around you, or not influenced by the world that's happening around you. I think it's what you do with that influence, right? It's what I do with the information. It's how I construct the information in my mind, and with the people around me, and how much space you give. I think free thought is about like how much room and compassion do you give, right? When in thinking, in knowing that thought is not this finite material thing that has to be upheld, but rather a moving thing that we can all kind of, collide into each other in weird ways and still be able to kind of maintain a level of civility, right? Like a level of togetherness or unified thought. Yeah.
Like speaking of like speaking of like, being a free thinker, what was like sort of like your latest idea that was out of a free spirited nature this year? Besides falling in love.
That's in the pocket.
That's
We're not taking that. We're not pulling that one out. No, I don't know if it's free. For the sake of not wanting to sound pretentious or like I'm in some unique construction of the world. I'm following, like my friend Megan Hotong says, I'm following my curiosities. And I don't know what that means. I don't think it's unique. I don't think it's free in any particular way, but I think it's what I am preoccupied with. And we recently made a film with Nicole Fortain, and I'm embarrassing filmmakers by calling it a film. Actually, it's not a film. It's a thing. It's a recording. It's that looking into something. And it's not because we did it. And I love Nicole. Nicole's extremely talented, right?
One of the best in South Africa. Extremely
talented. But we went out. It was my birthday, and I thought, cool. What do I want for my birthday? I don't want to get anything. I want to kind of make something. And so we went out to the Karoo, went out to Sutherland, to go look at stars and be sort of in this weird spacey vibe. And it's in the desert, and there's something that feels like the beginning and the end of the earth there. And sort of staged a scenario where Nicole was, because like resources in making films or trying to make films has really broken my heart over the past couple of years. It's been difficult here in this country. And I think particularly because of the things that me and my peers are trying to make, right? The things that we're trying to think through, I don't think resonate currently with the financing structural systems in South Africa, which is fine. It's not like they don't understand real art. It's just like maybe I'm not resonating. Maybe I'm not connecting to the right ports, right, at the moment, which is okay. But I'm connecting to what I'm connecting to. And so I've had this like surplus of scripts and material and things that feel like, devastating to not be able to make, but I started to look at them as objects. I started to look like, oh, I don't have to make the film, but I can kind of pick it apart, right? Like I can take elements from this, and the film becomes almost the object from which we derive all of the other pieces of art. So I can take a script and make a poster for it before a film has even been made, or I can take a film and I can go make a soundtrack for it before I've made the film. So I can start to break it up, or I can put it up. So one of the first exercises I did was with Nicole, which is this film, is that I just gave her the script, and it was for a character, and we were going to go shoot her rehearsing for this film that would never get made. And there's something in that. So we edited that with Shelby, and there's something in that creates a new poetic system for both of the film that we're shooting physically in the Karoo and the film that's not being made. So the poetics of that is sort of coming across, the language from that, the dialogue from that, the performances, seeing her change, seeing her sort of move. We get to catch a glimpse of something that I think has been really tough to metabolize and to bring to life, right? And there was something fulfilling, and it kind of gave me a new practice. It kind of made me feel like, oh, my work is to be able to observe these things in a different way. I still want to make films, and I think the time will come, and I think I'm equipped to when that moment arrives to actually make films. And when my moment meets the cultural moment that is whatever, when it is understood, when the things we're saying make sense to people, I think that moment will come. But yeah, that's the last thing. I think the big thing, not even the last thing, the big thing that's preoccupying my mind now, and even with all that heartbreak, I think I've fallen in love with films, right? I've also come to a realization that, oh, you're not so good. You're never as good as you think you are. right? Like you're never as good. Like I was watching some Robert Altman films last week. I was like, this is the thing. I don't know what I'm talking about. Like however I'm trying to intellectualize this thing even now is me trying to gather myself. And when your language sort of quantifies into something meaningful, you'll know. And watching those Altman films is like, oh, he built it, he made it, he caught these glimpses I'm talking about enough times to know what the thing could possibly look like. And so yeah, another reminder. And so I'm back watching shit. I was very much like, oh, fuck films, dude. I don't have 2 hours to say that time is gone. And I think that was just heartbreak. I think that was just like a sadness about like, fuck, here I am making commercials. This is not what I'm supposed to be doing. But I appreciate it.
That's amazing, man. Thank you for sharing. Does the relationship between you as a director and the performer shift or change when you're making sort of like a behind the scene moment of the actual film idea that you really want to make? What was that process like? Like having long dialogues with Nicole about the script and like sort of like preempting, did it shift your idea initially of the initial script? Like what was that relationship like between you and the performer?
So it was like me and Nicole didn't really know each other, but I tend to know the people I love immediately.
Wow.
I didn't meet you.
Can you please say that again?
I tend to know the people I love immediately. It's like there's no confusion there about like, oh man, there's something here that I can't necessarily quantify into words. I can't say I saw a film by Nicole before. I don't think I have. I've seen her around. Oh, I did. Flatland, Jenna Bass's film. But even in that film, I can't say that's my moment of like realization that she's a good performer or whatever. It's more so she used to come to Babbi. We used to hang out. We'd speak. I'd be like, fuck, there's something deep about this person. We wouldn't even have long conversations. And then invited her on this trip with Nick and Keenan. And to me, the work is the same. That the work is just in the front of the film now, right? Like the stuff that would be behind, the conversations, all of that. And even that comes from a type of thinking around film theory, or at least a new type of film theory for myself, and things I've been talking about with Julie, with Evan, Julie Ngati, Evan, Victor Alvitz. The idea that, oh yeah, there's something being made here. I'm not American. There's no invisible camera. There's no, as soon as I walk up into the Sutherland with a camera, it's an alien object there to capture something, right? It's not a normative. It's not there every day. And so bringing the making to the front of the film a little bit more as I get into a practice, I think is where I'm headed. And so there's no difference for me. What we were talking about and trying to construct is the film, and at the same time is the context that makes a film, right? And there's moments, and I think it's also the bleeding. It's not a documentary, so there's like a bleeding in and out of performance that feels real, like I'm catching a glimpse of what the film I'm talking about could look like or feel like, or what the performance could be really. And then there's moments where you're hearing my voice in the background and I'm kind of talking her through the ideas, and we getting somewhere, right? We're in discussion and in conversation. So yeah, there's a balance. I don't think it changes. I think it's to me, it's deeply intimate. It's like, and that's what I mean about the people I love. I think last time we spoke, I mentioned this, but Santu Mufukeng, I don't take photographs of people I don't love, right? Like, and that's what I'm trying to really understand, is that I want to engage with things that I think are very important. Even you can love something that's ugly, that's sore, that's broken, that's, it doesn't mean that I'm painting a perfect picture of Nicole. I think I'm able to sit in the difficulty with her, right? And showing her was kind of the most fulfilling part of all of it. And we don't know what we've made, but we've made something, and I don't know how it feels to anyone else. I talking to Jack about this yesterday. I don't know how it feels generally, but I like it. I look at it and I'm like, cool, this is the beginning of some sort of new practice for myself that honors the lack of economy, the lack of financial, but that lives on camera now. It's like, it's not something I'm trying to hide. I'm not trying to make like, oh, the image is so polished and so clean, but we did it for nothing. I'm like, no, we did it for nothing, and you must feel it. The economy of this thing is going to build the language of this thing. So I'm going to put that at the front. You're going to feel this process of us trying to make something trying to be deliberate about seeing the pictures that we are hoping to put into the world, whether they make it on a mass level or not. That's not my concern really. That's like it will happen in its own time. But to build a practice and a continuous practice of looking, whatever you find.
That's amazing, man. You've been spending a lot of time in Joburg. Has the city also just began to adopt you like it adopted me?
Yeah. I'm from the Northwest. There's a lot of similarities between Joburg and where I'm from, and the landscapes and the weather, and I think
on the internet you make it seem like you're from a Bree Street, Birkenstock wearing, bagel eating.
Dog, I be bagel eating. I be wearing Birkenstocks. I be living like I'm fucking a white girl as much as I can, right? But I think I've outgrown that. I think that's a moment as well in my life where you kind of access hits you and you're capable of doing these things and you want to explore the possibilities and they somehow look valuable. And then you take a step back and you're like, I'm not Christina.
Shout out Christina.
Yeah, I'm not a white girl from Cape Town. I can't do that. And I guess what I was saying to a friend of mine yesterday is that I do really well where there's tension, where there's like a tension in movement, in culture, and I just like the tension in Joburg. People have been talking about, and this has been on my mind a lot, is Joburg is dying, the city is dying, right? There's all of these eulogies by white people mostly about a kind of life that no longer exists in Joburg, right? Or a kind of life that's disappearing, or a kind of convenience, right, that's disappearing. And I think that's strange because I think Joburg is taking on, like any African metropolitan, right? Like the people that built the place are finally coming back to live in the place. And that's what's jarring. That's what's throwing people off. The spatial dynamics are starting to take on the life of what the people that inhabit it, right? The lack that you see in the city is the lack that the people have. Whichever way you look, it's like being constructed by. It's being constructed socially. Yes, there's maladministration and failures in running a city or whatever, but that is a city. A city leaks, a city stinks, a city anywhere in the world you go. And I started to feel like I'm living in a town in Cape Town. The name, not a coincidence, right? Like I'm starting to live in a town that has many, many apartheid constructions. That's like everything closes early. People don't come into the city. There's no intermingling in the city. There is to an extent, right? There's these bastions or spatial bastions, like you go to Bro Clubhouse or you go to Souk or you go to whatever. There's very specific places where you are allowed to exist in a particular way. And those can sometimes hypnotize you into thinking change is happening or something. But it's just like an allotment, right? Like you've been allotted a little space to exist. So I don't think it functions like a city. I think it's scared to function like a city. I think it closes out the things that could make better possibilities. And it's a European town, and it's the cost of living is being driven up. There's no controls. And I'm on the better side of that, right? I can't imagine if I was in any way sort of unemployed in Cape Town, homeless in Cape Town, absolutely poor in Cape Town. The difficulty of sort of like surviving that space and not feeling like an intentional lockout it's huge. So I have these are not political crises. I think it's a feeling in my body that's just telling me that I need to be somewhere else, perhaps, or I should consider being somewhere else at the very least. And I think where Joburg kind of comes in is I'm not gonna. I don't think any of South Africa's problems don't exist in Joburg. So if I think about race or whatever, it might be amplified in Cape Town, but I don't think it doesn't exist, and that's not what I'm trying to escape. I think I'm trying to step into a feeling that I enjoy. I'm trying to be around people I love. My family, my brothers are here. I'm in closer proximity to my mother. So there's a lot of elements But I'm still bonded to Cape Town in ways that I think are inextricable. I have work and businesses and things that matter still, so I'm not opting out just yet or immediately. I think I'm in both places, and I think the complexities of Cape Town and the difficulties of Cape Town and the soft life of Cape Town has all informed who I am as much as whatever growing up anywhere else. But I've been good in my life to be able to move around a lot and not feel possessed by a place. And the thing we're talking about now, Arthur, you know, the Fred Moten, you know, it's empirical. It's absolutely important that we do not take a fucking place, right? That I do not need to claim some national identity. I don't. I'm fine. I'm a moving thing. I'm a fugitive, so it's okay. So wherever I land, I land.
That's beautiful, man. Speaking of things that sort of like ties you to Cape Town, ideas and businesses, one of your brainchilds or later, no, how old is Babbi now?
I think we're 10 months in.
10 months in. It feels
like
longer,
a lifetime,
bro.
man.
Feels like a lifetime. Which is also sort of like a response to the lack of spaces that where we can exist and intermingle in the city. And I think you guys done a wonderful job in creating that environment that is unassuming, free, and open and receptive. That tweet that kills me is like, oh, you'll wait longer for your sandwich at Babbi because
it's a bang. Let me read the tweet.
Read the tweet, please read the tweet, man. That shit kills me. You should put that on a t-shirt, bro.
We literally the thing that I'm gonna show you is the t-shirt.
Please show me that tweet. I hope you can find it, bro. That tweet was insane.
Find it.
I think if we both try to find this tweet,
we'll get to it.
We'll get to it. I'm almost positive that we'll get to it. But found it. You have to wait an hour for a sandwich at Babbi because the men who work there are either too busy being bad bitches or talking to light-skinned women. Dude, I died at that. I was like, whoa, what a interesting
That person did not lie. I'll tell you something. That person said no lies in there. That person said nothing wrong in there,
bro.
And I think so. We've been thinking like when people walk into a space, I think there's the gesture of service is a very, you know, it's an ordered thing. People are in uniforms. Someone comes and quickly cleans your table or wipes or does whatever. And I get the importance of all of those efficiencies, but I don't think that's what we're doing. We had a thing where we were like, I wonder if other restaurants think we're a restaurant, right? Like, because that's not, I'm there to host you. If you think, it's like, there's enough space for both of us to kind of have an experience. So you might see a waiter at Babbi sitting at a table next to you chatting to someone, but that somehow is a collapse of a dynamic that I think makes some people uncomfortable, right? A collapse of a dynamic where this Luzu Gogo shouldn't be coming to your table with a cigarette in his mouth, clearing your right. But to me, those things are important because it was about undoing. And as we get older and doing what we also were starting a project. I've never even worked as a waiter, right? So I was also starting a project that I didn't really have, you know, some big ideal on. It was just like, because there's a lack, because there's a gap in something, I'm interested in places that I can sit in as well, and enjoy and have enjoy the music and be comfortable and have conversation. And there's, you know, with there's a couple people involved in making the space. None of them are at your service. Right. We're happy to be here with you. We're happy to sit with you and share in something quickly. It's a small goal of it. It's like it's not you at Mom Ruby's. You're not on Bree Street anymore. It's like so that expectation for you to be served or to be, you know, I'm not at your beck and call. Like, that's one thing I can guarantee you about myself, and the thing that we're trying to make is that it's a shared social space. It's a co-opted space for us together, but as soon as you lose sense of that, as soon as you're the dominant idea in the space that's there to, you know, everyone enters as a main character. Everyone has a story that they have or who they are. And I'm like, yo, man, happy to share space. Really grateful for the way things have gone. Really grateful for the community that's come in and shared in our little project, right? I was talking to Dada, and that's what that we were talking about. That it's a project, right? It's a project, and it's something you can share in, and some people really get it. Some people really show. People from all over the world that come. Some people really, really get it, right? They really get that. Yeah. So what? My ashtray is full, dude. Or like, so what? The waiter took a little. It's like there's certain things, but we are learning and we are optimizing service, and we are getting better. And be kind, man. Be kind to us. That's not what we do. We're just trying to make space and spaces that us and our people can sit in, and I hope that's more the feeling you take away. But that t-shirt is coming.
I have this crazy vision, bro, of Action Bronson coming to Cape Town and coming to Babbi.
Dude, you know my mind is really, really there.
Dude, my mind is
like
there.
I can see it.
I can see him like taking a bite of that mean cheese sandwich you have, and he's like, yo, this tastes like the wind that blows while you're on Table Mountain.
You know what I'm saying?
Do you know what I mean? And like when he has a bite of that delicious cookie that you make, like he describes it in such a astronomical way. I see that, you know, and there's a dialogue that can exist, you know,
exactly.
And, you know, outside of just like,
and also this perception that's like boys town or whatever. I'm like, bro, I'm 32 years old. I'm not like, I'm not like, we're not there. I'm not there trying to banter with anyone. I think what we are is what we are, and I guess your reading of whatever the situation is true. Whatever you think, it's true, right? Whatever misgivings you have are true. But I think there's a genuineness there. There's a real will to share in something that's interesting. I can guarantee we're not making tons of money off of this thing. We like there's it's not there. But you know, it's like we're not there for that. We've made compromises. People live well off of what we, you know, if they work at Babbi. There's no, we're not pinching and fucking, you know, trying to get the most out of people without giving anything back. So I'm not, it's also like, I'm not scared in the traditional sense. I'm not like, oh, what if this place closes down? Then what am I gonna? It's like, when niggas feel like it's not representing them culturally, or it's not saying what they're saying, or it's not the experience that they're looking for. And when there's resistance, we'll come to terms with that. We'll come to an acceptance. But I think I'm making a proposition with my friends and people who I think are interesting and brilliant and in their own right, in their own work, and the things that they do. That's more important to me, is to make a proposition. And if that proposition isn't received or isn't well met, that's okay too. We can find other means to kind of think through things. And if we're wrong at any given moment, if we are talking to light skins or acting like baddies or whatever the thing is, I think that's a human thing. And service staff is often seen to not be human, right? Like so I think there is a contradiction there. There is a weird imbalance, I guess, on some level, but I don't think there's anything I can do with that. I don't think there's anything I want to do. Let me change that. I don't think there's anything I want to be corrective about, except for like, let's get the sandwich out quicker. Let's make it more pleasant for someone. But I think we have come in with honesty, with clarity. We've made mistakes in it, but I'm learning. I don't know that business. I'm not a restaurateur. I'm not a bar owner as well. I'm still living my life. I'm still making my work. I'm still doing other things, and this just happens to be a space that has allowed us and many things that I love to coalesce in that space, you know. And Donny came there and played Audrey Lorde one night, like weird, you know. Kokoroko played there. We've had Christos played there. We've had, you know, there's been so many beautiful little moments. We had The Joy play there and do a cappella. So that's what I'm offering mostly in this project. That's what I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking about did the sandwich come out. It's like, I'm not. That's not my concerns, right? But we do try and make it better. We do try to figure it. But that's not going to be the thing that names the thing that we're doing. That's not going to be it. That's not. You're not going to remember that by the end of it, right? You're not that. That's not going to be what holds.
Now I hear you, man. If you ever make it to Cape Town or is around Cape Town, please go hang out at Babbi, man. That's like, man. That's like Sekaya pa. For real.
Out Sekaya pa. It's a small goal of real.
Like real life. Like
really 2 room.
Young
2 room energy.
Young 2 room.
And if you're from that space, I've also seen, you know what's been interesting? I've also seen like if such a thing exists, cool white Cape Town resist absolutely to kind of interact with the space in meaningful ways. I've out of all of the people that have come in and complained and those are at the core. Those are the people that will come in and tell you, yeah, the sandwich doesn't hit like it used to. It's like those are the cornballs that are like,
but
because they've had the fucking lay of the land. They've dictated where we go for a long time. They've dictated what was playing on the speakers. They've dictated how we should think about space. And so if it doesn't behave the way that they think it ought to behave, they'd rather go sit at gin bars, like some weird fucking place like that we've sat at and kind of come in with grace and accepted the conditions and the terms that they were culturally offering up, right? But it's fine.
But it's
okay. But I've noticed it. I've noticed that resistance. I've noticed, and thank God you're not there. You'd have made the vibe weird.
Yeah. No, but they've had so many birthday parties there, man.
Yeah.
All these girls that you speak about.
There's been love. There's been love. It's not everyone. It's not everyone. And I think, 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other.
And that's
6
all that
no
matters.
9. Yeah, you're fun.
That's all that matters, man. Sanofihla u Titombueni, the
Pratito
brand, like, what a sweetheart, man. Just kubone like
a foodie,
like fair to like it was pilela, man, like uyabonakala ba bes pilela, like it, like
you know what I think about South Africa sometimes. I feel like we're always whitewashing people's existence. Tito Moene presided over fucking trickle down economics. He starved our people. I think Tito Moene has always been well intentioned, and it's ironic that I said starved our people when he's so obsessed with food, right? But Tito Moene is presided over some of the most diabolical times. He's a brilliant man. He's a good thinker. He's probably well-intentioned. But I think there's no need to make angels out of anyone. Rest in peace, though. That's not the critique. The critique is not to disrespect his life but I think it's important to kind of reflect. When Pravin Gordhan died, Pravin presided over a chaotic public enterprises ministry that saw a number of these things plummet. So I can't absolve him completely. And those things plummeting were thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people suffer from that, right? It's not just a failure in a state-owned enterprise. It's a failure. It's an economic failure. It's a failure to like families that had work, that had salaries, that had things, right? And I think, like the EFF was very critical. I think duly so. They obviously have personal sort of gripe with Pravin that I don't share, but I do think he did preside over a very difficult time in our country. And so as these figures disappear, I've been making a joke on stage about old people dying, and I think it's that there's something about it that is necessary. The death brings birth to something else. And so thank you for your service. May you forever rest in peace and power. But goddamn, you put us through it.
How's that been going? How have you been fueling the subject matter of your life experiences into your comedy as of late? Because you've been doing a lot of living.
Yeah,
I mean, you live every day, but like you've been living.
Yeah, I'm learning. In the comedy space, I've learned to be extremely humble. There's some incredibly talented people, and I think comedy is it's so easy to critique, right? So people sit at comedy club and go like, "Yeah, no, that was funny." I think the work of doing that, the work of getting on a stage, the work of kind of sharing and getting better at that is something I wouldn't say I have full grasp on, and I think I'm still early, but it excites me. I'm like, oh, imagine 5 years of doing this. Imagine how I'm going to sound. Imagine 10 years of doing this. How I'm going to be able to kind of control my ideas and think through things and kind of, be present on stage in ways that I think if anyone is a public speaker, if anyone has ever been, put in front of an audience, you understand how difficult that sense of, sitting there and giving a performance and trying to be interesting and funny, but honest and true to who you are, however radical your opinions are or strange they are. I think it's really, I don't know, fuck. It's giving me, it's like a liberating practice for me. It's like, fuck, you can't imagine the ways that it's allowed me to live my life, and the honesty that it's injected into my day to day. And so it's symbiotic in that sense, that it feeds my life and my life feeds into it. And there's nothing I talk about on stage that I wouldn't talk about in front of you or in front of my friends. Or there's nothing that I'm making so that we can laugh. It's things that are genuinely funny, that come from conversations I have, that come from interactions I have. And I just fucking love it, dude. So I have mad respect for it, and my peers and people that have been doing it longer than me. I'm at the beginning of it. I'm still at the place where I'm just like, I'm happy to be here. I feel dope. I feel like I'm making people laugh, but I don't want to overstate that, because this game has valleys and peaks, you know?
And it seems as if in Cape Town, when I was visiting there, like there's an energy that's brewing and an appetite that's growing for stand-up, and it's such a beautiful thing to notice that you guys get to exercise your material weekly and week in and week out, which is like very necessary for the space, right?
Yeah. Also, out of that are some cold motherfuckers, dog. There's some really good thinkers entering the comedy space.
Wow.
People who had already been there. I think it's becoming a little more complicated and interesting there. And there's gigs are popping up everywhere, and rooms are filling up much quicker. You're not. Comedians aren't begging no one to come to a show like that. Comedians don't have the most banging social media or whatever, but somehow these rooms are filled.
Wow.
And somehow there's a community that's following, and people that want to have a good night and understand the intention of the work that people do. And it's so that we gather and think about ourselves without being too sensitive. And I think the control of language, as we'd had it since maybe the early 2010s, into Fees Must Fall, into this kind of trying to regulate people's language and how they can talk or how they can think, that's receding quite strongly, right? And I think that's when comedy becomes important again. That's when it becomes a great sort of artistic space where interesting points of view, not for the sake of gratifying the comic, but for the sake of thinking together. And that's what I always think about. It's like, I'm not there to hurt anyone's feelings, but if I think something is valuable and worth thinking about, I will think about it, right, out loud. And so because the audiences don't police as much, I think a freer space is starting to creep up, and it's fucking cool to be a part of it. But there's some cold motherfuckers in comedy, dog. That's
beautiful, man.
There's some people saying stuff and thinking about stuff that's so interesting. And there's so much camaraderie and sharedness, and so I'll pull up to gigs even if I'm not on. It's like, because I like the space, because I like how shared it is. And it can get hammy and it can get weird. I'm not defending comedy entirely. It can be strange, but that's part of it. And if you're brave enough to get on a stage and grab a mic and say what you need to say, brave is the wrong word, but you get what I'm trying to get at. That's dope to me. That's not something I'm gonna hold against you. That's like, thanks for the attempt. Even if you died, even if I died, it's like that's dope. Let's try more.
That's beautiful, man. Speaking about language, we sort of like moving into the world where the ecosystem of where we get our news, where we get our popular culture is on the internet and on our phones. And I was thinking about this idea of our native languages having the potential to become extinct, because it's not something that we sort of like in our generation wear on our shoulders and our hearts with pride mostly. And I stand to be corrected in many different ways, but this idea of like language extinct and us as a universe, as a people speaking one language, which is this colonial English thing,
Sure.
What are your views on that, bro? Do you ever think about things of that nature, especially like when wanting to raise children is concerned?
Sure. It's a weird conversation about South Africa and the purity of language and culture. And, the language is made valuable. The language is made valuable by, adding it into the academic spaces, making it something you can professionalize and work in and carry out your day-to-day in a society. If the society doesn't do that, the language disappears naturally. And so I don't think your feelings are far off. I think there is a receding sense of these cultures, of these languages. And we've always, for as long as I can remember, South Africa has spoken about the preservation of language and culture, but I don't think I don't think the state cares to give that effort. I don't think that's the state's concern, right? And so I can't really think to how you recapture sort of the kind of social value a language or a culture used to have or needs to have without a really concerted effort. We talk about, we studying Jan van Riebeeck in the thing, but ask around, ask yourself how many black historians are operating, how many black PhD students are doing history in universities and are studying to be able to write these curriculums that we're thinking about, that we're hoping for, that we're praying for, right? It's very few. And so what's gone missing in South Africa, and I think Ulaz Lushaba puts it quite aptly, he says there's a sense of responsibility in your education, right? Is no one has a sense of responsibility. Education is seen like a commodity that one will use to go consume other commodities, and not seen as something, a gesture to then go add to your society, to go bring back. I don't even like to, I was talking to Lebo, I don't even like to think about it as like a preservationist sort of idea, but I use the language that I like in films, right? Like, and so in Jerry, for example, it's entirely a Xhosa film. I don't even have to think about it, like, and it's not as Xhosa as I say, the ones you see on TV all the time. It's like what we speak in, it's like this colloquialized street language that is in motion, that has some Afrikaans in it, that has Setswana in it, that has something else. And I think there's a great deal of value in that direction. There's a great deal of value in that construction of new poetics, language will change, things will go missing in the language. English might dominate because it's a professionalized language, and I can study it, I can read it, I can predominantly walk into any bookshop, and that's the main language that's kept in there. And so for all intents and purposes, I think I would hope that that's what we want to do as Xhosa people. I'd hope that that's what we want to do as Tsonga people, as Swana people, Setswana people. But it's not what we're doing. And so human beings are great at keeping the things they want to keep and losing the things they want to lose. Right? So we have to ask ourselves the question, as black people, as modernity sort of swallows us and then takes us in and adopts us, what type of modern reality we want to live in, because this seems like decidedly the trajectory that we've chosen collectively. I don't know. And maybe there is an argument to say that South Africans are urban black people that are willing to change and willing to move and willing to move away from ideas because of our histories, because of how labor operates, because of the rural and the city sort of economies and how they move on different ends. And so it always does physically feel like you're leaving something behind to enter something else. And so naturally with that, you lose certain things. And I don't know what, I'm not a linguist, and I don't know what the affects of English or any other language are in Nigeria or Ethiopia or other places. But I think here is a particularly sort of, rational, modern, scientific reality that has dominated the day, and that reflects in how we think. You must speak to Nombuso Matibela. I think Nombuso has a better grasp at this question of language and thinking in our own terms. I play with it, I think, in these colloquialisms and thinking about certain things, like phrases like ungalahl, zulahla, and that doesn't necessarily mean tatis Xhosa. It means sulahla. It's like what's your internal network made of? And so I'm always trying to inform myself of what my internal, even though I'm talking English, what is my internal network kind of constructing, and how do I look at it, and what does this language mean? There's a lot of fruit salad in English, you know what I mean? Like you just word. You can sound smart, you can sound however, but the real thing is like, are you bonded to certain ethos, certain ideologies, certain places, certain people? And I think that's how I try remain connected to it.
That's beautiful, man. Earlier we were speaking about the sort of like the situation in Gaza and how we are very aware of like how serious the sort of like the circumstances is there. Especially like I'm interested in the conversation like surrounding young people who has ideas, who maybe thought 5 years ago before they started bombing and killing people that their creative output, whether it is a piece of music or film that they make in their home in Gaza, was going to be the best idea to exist amongst their people and time. And shortly after that thing being taken away from them, I want to like understand, I want to hear like what are your views on like I don't know, just the outside of, I mean, I'm confining it to making things and creating things, but there's obviously other things that can exist that are way more important than just making things. What are your views like surrounding that conversation?
To be obviously absolutely devastating time for the people of Gaza, but I've tried my best to not centralize myself in that conflict, to not add myself completely into that, and to kind of be an observer of justice and injustice and how it shapes up and how it shows up. And I think, from my point of view, and I'm not going to say a lot about it, but from my point of view, I think the tragedy is like what moments like this take away from self-actualization. And that's what I meant about like, the funny tragedy in Gaza is that some dude was making beats, or some girl was writing a song, or and just as the bomb started landing, they were like, fuck, dude, fuck. This is where my mind was at. And that to me is kind of a much more microscopic concern about what these things mean, what this any conflict means, is that it kind of demands that you relinquish these concepts, which I think we can sit here and navel gaze about, right? Like I can think about what I'm making, and the importance or lack of importance of their frivolousness, or their importance totally to have freedom to think like that, or to actualize yourself, or to actualize your ideas. And so, yeah, as I think about it, is like that it's that balancing scale of being like, even the most frivolous tasks, right, become so difficult in that context, or start to disappear. And those are the first things to disappear. And obviously there's tragedy and death, and all of that adds on to it. But I think more importantly, I've taken a step back and tried to not construct other people's trauma, to let their existence play out, and try be supportive and one of the people, and but to not embed myself in other people's trauma in a way that requires me to construct it for them, right? To say how sore it is or how painful it is, because I don't know, right? I'm not there. But yeah, stand in solidarity. The justice. The world always bends towards justice. I don't know how long or how far. It's unfair. It's unkind. But I'm convinced that it bends towards justice, and that it doesn't matter how powerful, how armed you are, how vicious you are at any point in time, that the wheel is turning, and then slow wide turns always in history. If you think of the Jews of Israel as previously oppressed peoples, to get to this point is slow wide turns. And I think I think it's something to keep considering without justifying anything that they're doing. But to be like, there's continuous things, and violence is the neutral here, and so chaos is the neutral. And trying to see those microscopic sort of purviews play out as well, while we're saying, oh, it's so bad and so traumatic. It's yes, of course that is true. So the question of making becomes both like, why do I care about making a film? You see what's happening to these people, or at the same time, fuck, they would love to make the stuff, so I should live out loud because of these people. I should be elated by any sense of freedom, any
Mm.
sense of like, allowances to move, to think, to be.
Diyakuva. I love how your mind works. It's so like in tune with your upbringing. It's in tune with your teenagehood, who you are as a young adult, and the journey you're walking. I don't know if you might even remember this. We were speaking briefly a couple months ago, or I think might have been last year, about the things that sort of just like lighted up our childhood. And it's this idea of like the kid in the street who had the PlayStation and what that meant to us.
Yeah.
Or the kid who had a computer and we all went to get movies from them,
Sure.
you know? Like we spoke like earlier on, like at home there might not be food. At home, like the situation at home might not be beautiful, but like yo toka wenzi movie cho.
movie
cho. Kan bolegi plays at cho. You know, like you know what I mean? Like those things. Like I really like to like hear you like really like expand on those thoughts, man, and that feeling.
Yeah. So just to give context, the thing we're talking about is like I'm surrounded by a group of people with Auntie or Eva or Jack or but people who understand that you know what is significantly there in all of our lives is a sense of trauma, a sense of pain, a sense of loss, a sense of displacement, a sense of whatever the thing is that you're feeling is like all true. But that's not where my concerns sort of linger. I think it's like I'm interested in the movements of the things around me that feel funny and interesting and bizarre, even within these contexts, even within difficulty. And so talking about like, say, PlayStation and then peak like the whole day at someone's house. It's like that to me is, you know, and then you don't get called. Someone you have to, and it's not that you have vinjo, man. It's just that imeko eating as far as play Z7 apparently, and so and he's like, you know, on his own tip. And I think all of those feelings to me are like things that I still keep with me. Those are like little treasures for me. Those are like when someone says, like, Sam, so when's he moving? Can't he move if to man? Right. Say nicely out your directly out man can't move each beautiful, you know what I mean? Like something succinct about that moment that simplify you. I'm like, you're right, I should have movies for you. I should have the latest movies for you. You're not lying. It kind of the thinking follows, right? And I think it's that. It's like even in tragedy, I think that there's like these beautiful little things that you know. I don't think we're sitting wherever you are, whichever casa you live in or neighborhood you live in. I don't think we're sitting around and going like, oh, this is so terrible. And so it's like that is the obvious, that is the known, right? Like that is the universally understood that it's not nice.
Yeah,
it's not nice. Movie. You know what I mean? It's like it's that.
That's a USP.
You know, it's like it's that thing, and those things become things I care about more than you know the outcomes. It's like it's like what is my life? What will be the thing that I remember the most? It's like I don't think that I remember any times as Lambile. It's like I can barely you know, and so I think in that spirit, it's always like, yeah, dog, it's rough. Of course, it's rough.
Yeah,
it's like that's just what it is.
Yeah.
And there's these little moments of glory and freedom and happiness
in it
that are inextricable from my childhood. That are literally the things that I can remember.
Yeah,
the things that I hold on to. So yeah.
On that note, bro, like I think I always ask you this question, and I think I'll forever ask you this question, like today. When we're 65, when we're 85, I don't think it'll ever change.
Sure.
And maybe your answer will change, and I think that's what I'm really interested in. But like, what do you find interesting about South African youth?
Yeah, you see, I had a different answer last. I can't remember it, but I think I didn't like it when I heard it. I was like, fuck, what was I talking about? Fuck, man, I don't know. you know what I need to stop doing, and we need to stop doing, is exceptionalizing ourselves. I think South African exceptionalism as a concept, as like the sense that we're some unique thing on the planet that's kind of playing out outside of the vast network of feeling and understanding and emotion, is untrue. I think South African youth are deeply troubled. I think we have a lot of beautiful things happening. We're making things, and I think within the bubble that we exist in, sometimes there's so much beauty, right? So much progression and forward motion, and I don't want to say everything is bad, because I'm flesh and bones proof. You flesh and bones proof. My peers are flesh and bones proof that it isn't all that bad, right? That there's some place where we can find momentum, but I think that's only if I think about it from a very individuated point of view. If I'm thinking about me, I think what's important is to say, what I would like for South African youth is what we were talking about, the greater sense of responsibility for one another, for the crisis that's playing out around us, for this is not a call to action, but this is just a reminder that and so let's not get frivolous. Let's not spend all of our time navel gazing. Let's not spend all of our time concerned with sort of like these myopic ideas around creativity and being and actualizing towards an American or European end, or to be loved and cared for and admired in those ways. Maybe the work is bigger. Maybe I'm starting to feel like, yeah, I like the things I do, but maybe they're not also central, and that there's something else I need to be discovering at the same time. And I love my work, and I appreciate getting the chance to make this work, but I think there's more we need to concern ourselves with beyond the Springboks winning, or but I think there's a lot of beauty, there's a lot of interesting things growing out of it. I think as we move further and further away from our overtly colonial histories into like a new sense of colonial regard for ourselves and how we carry ourselves and what we find value in, and I think my caution is, be careful. It's not always, it might all be shiny, it's not all as good as we think, and that there is, I sound preachy, dog, but there's more. There's more to concern yourself with. There's look around, look up, travel into the country, see these things, meet people, just do better, dog. Just like, and I don't know what that means, because I'm trying to figure that out as well for myself. But at this moment, I think that's a better point of view than I had last time. And I'm sure I'll listen to this shit and be like, listen to this preachy ass, bitch ass nigga sitting on a podcast talking about like there's more important things. Like, shut up.
What's your relationship like with pessimism then?
I'm not ever gonna say the world will be okay, but I'm never lingering on the point that it's bad, right? Like, I know things are tough, I know things are difficult, and the how they're tough or how they're difficult is like specific to all of us and specific to your own life. But I'm not in any way, like I said, I'm flesh and bones proof that like I'm okay. But the point is not for me to be okay by myself. And I think that's my concern. They say don't look where you're not going, right? So my concern is sort of moving towards something and adding and contributing towards a particular direction. So I think it would be cornball of me to be like, oh, I'm so pessimistic, but my life is actually great. And all things considered, right? They're not great as in like I know or have everything, but more so that I get to think again tomorrow.
I hear you, bro.
Yeah,
that's so true. For the young kid out there listening to you, we live in a world where, I mean, like, life is about making choices, and I just want to hear your take. Like, for the young kid listening out there, like, would you say like in your 30s, does it get easier to make these choices?
Yeah,
in your life.
Yeah, I think the things that aren't important become clearly unimportant, and the things that you then concern yourself with become more focused and clearer, and I think it becomes easier to make decisions through that lens. But yeah, dog, the only thing, and I think I've stressed this, and I stress it so that I learn it as well, is tetinyan.
Honesty.
Be honest. Be honest. Just be honest. Decisions become easier the more honest you are, because if you're speaking to your truth and how you're feeling, not to say you'll always be right or correct, but you'll be honest, right? So even if you went the wrong direction, at least you did it out of honesty. At least you did it out of truth. At least you get to fail towards something else. So yeah, tetinyani fit man. It's like everything else is tiring. You're gonna slow yourself down. Tetinyani and yeah, I don't know. It's hard to not pretend or not mimic or not. You know, it's like that's what we are. That's what human beings are. So yeah, drop the mimicry. Just try be nice to people. Just try be honest to people. Just try live through honest means. Just try not to glorify bullshit, because then that makes up your society. The shit you uphold, the things that you think are important. If you think our sneakers and our cars and our houses and our if you think that's the ideal, I love beautiful things, but again, it's just like, that's what I would caution. I'd be like, there's what's that thing? Everyone, there's no such thing as not worshipping in adult life. There's no such thing as atheism. The only choice you get is what to worship, right? And there are things that will kill you if you worship them. There are things that will put you in the ground if you worship them. And so, approach carefully, walk carefully, walk with kindness, be reckless when it's time to be reckless, but do what the fuck you feel, and as long as it's honest, I'm on your side. Number one.
Sure, Fit. You're still writing music, bro. Actually, give us a 16. Or is that a disrespect to 6? Give us a 16 there, bro.
That's crazy.
Anything that's on your heart, bro.
I'm not writing music anymore. I've always wanted someone to ask me to give a 16, but I'm not gonna do it.
Bro, that's like bitch ass behavior, bro.
It almost came past its time. Someone was supposed to ask me when I was 23 years old. Was supposed to be like,
my God,
yo, spit a 16 for us, my nigga. And then I would have been ready. I would have been like, you know.
And
now, I'll put out. I think, I'm not making music at the moment. I'm not thinking about it. I'm trying to write stories about people who rap, characters that rap, and so those raps that I have will come out somewhere. There'll be an outlet for it, and they good, dog. They fucking great. But I have too much love and respect for that work that you can't part time it. I can't now suddenly.
No, I hear you.
You're gonna have, what was that nigga that rapped Keith or something? Stanfield rapped on the Breakfast Club, and Charlemagne was like, nah, that ain't it. You gotta respect this thing. You
gotta respect it.
You gotta respect this thing. And so
no, it was Nicki Minaj's ex.
Yeah, whatever that nigga's name is.
Fuck, what's his name?
He's on the reality shows.
Not Scott. Yeah, not Scott. What's his name? Safari. What's Safari? Yeah, Safari.
So you're not gonna Safari me, nigga. You're not gonna do that
ain't
to
it,
me.
Man.
That ain't it, man. Nah. I was like, but yeah, I'm enjoying music. I'm listening to other people do it. You know what I want to do? I want to do a Frank Casino video. So it's good to put it on here, actually. Frank Casino, culturally important. I want to do a video. I spoke to Ami about it. I need people close to Frank Casino to tell him.
Okay.
Let him know that I'm trying to shoot a Frank Casino music video.
Yo, that would be crazy, bro.
Me and Jack were talking about that. Adrian Lowe, him and Ricky family. Yeah, that
getting
video.
Goosebumps, bro. That's an important document.
So please, if anyone is in touch, get me in touch, nigga. I'm trying to. That's why I wanna come to. I wanna
shoot music videos.
Have a hand in popular culture, South African popular culture. I wanna insert myself a little. I went on a little. I was at a party. I drank a little bit. And I was talking to Andy Lebuga, and I was like, yo, we gotta, the reason that, if you think about it, all black people have is sports and entertainment, right? These are our vehicles. These are our cultural vehicles. And so in those vehicles, we have to insert some thought and some meaning and some care and in symbiosis with whatever the prolific thing that they're doing, however they're reaching the masses. I need to be someone who comes in and says, yo, I want to add to this. I want to add some thinking to this. I want to add like my a different worldview to this, because it's necessary, because as you could be medicine for us, right? You are, so let's optimize the things that are ours. So I don't want to just, I don't want to just shoot a Matlera Dovo video. I wanted to inject a bit of feeling, a bit of movement inside of it that goes like, cool, there's something else happening here. Can't quite tell what it is, but it gets to play on channel O. And suddenly that dynamic, whatever plays after it, people are like, huh? That's not it. We just saw something that was it, right? And they don't, whether you know or don't know why it is the thing, you just know that there's a feeling in it. So I really do want to inject a little bit more into popular culture. I want to participate. I'm a participator. I like pop culture. I like that shit. So actually, this is a great place to be saying this. Perfect. I want to participate. I want to participate. I'm not overtly out there or on the internet or whatever. And so the play is a little longer, but I want to participate. I hope that doesn't come off as desperate, but I really do. I really think it's important.
It's 2024, bro, and like we live in a very vibrant South Africa, and you say you want to participate, and I really want to know, like, what does it feel like to be like a yellow-boned black man in South Africa today? In the privileges,
no, I have no privileges.
Please speak to me in Drake.
I have no privileges. I'm here. I'm here thinking hard about how to make the next trick work.
But speak to the yellow bonus.
Nah, I'm not into any yellow bonus. That's colorism. That's crazy.
Wow,
we're in 2024.
That's such a bitch, like, bro, we're not speaking about colorism.
I'm not. AKA Resty Soul might have spoken about being yellow. I'm like, I'm not doing that, dog. You know what I mean? I'm here, dog. I'm here. What do you mean,
nigga?
I got a Biko fro. I got a what more do niggas want from me, dog? How much I'm making work with people I love that are black. I can't go back and talk about being yellow bone. That was 2013, dog. With that shit's run its course. I'm here for an important, serious mission here. I'm urgent. I'm not talking about being a yellow bone. I'm urgent, my nigga. I'm here trying to actualize some other things. So if I happen to, I also just found out I'm yellow bone. I used to, fuck that.
You were about to land on the point.
I was about to get somewhere, but no way. No way. Fuck that. Fuck yellow bone.
The trauma,
I'm like, fuck that. That's not what I am. No, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm nothing. I'm a fugitive. Yeah.
What a way to put it, man.
I'm a fugitive.
Yeah. Is there anything else on your heart that you wanted to get off as we're about to meet this beautiful Saturday halfway? It's a gorgeous day in Joburg.
I don't know. I don't want to spoil it. I think if I leave with the sentiment might be fake and flawed. So I'm gonna say thank you. That's it, man. I'm full of gratitude. I feel energized. It's a fucking cool little moment in my life. I'm happy to be alive. I'm happy to share it with the people I share it with. I'm sorry to anyone I've hurt. And I'm grateful to you at the same time. Onwards and upwards.
Thank you, my bro.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Peace, Joe.